Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, so you can start whenever you're ready.
Michael, you're on mute. Oh, everybody's on mute except me. Okay. That's fine. Did we lose Ashley and Alana, or did I?
No, I'm here. I just taken myself out of the equation because I'm just taking
Oh.
minutes.
Okay. There we go. Oh, there we go. Looks like the Brady Bunch now. We got 3 screens.
Yeah, I see it too.
Okay. We're going to look to get started. So the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for December 8th, 2020 is now in session. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. We have a public hearing for area variance. That's my dog in the background who's making that noise. I apologize. I have a beagle who's annoying. I should have put him outside. ZB 20-02, 66 South Chestnut, and we also will be reviewing that application, pursuing possibly a vote tonight for that same variance, 212-13 B4A. I'm giving the whole number here, ZB 20-02, 66 Chestnut Street. Right now, I'd like to make a motion. We have a public hearing that we have it open right now.
You haven't opened the public hearing yet. This is the first time you would do that.
We
So
don't have it open. I think
if you could do, a motion to open the public hearing.
All right, let's have I'd like to make a motion. Someone make a motion, please, to open a public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
I'm gonna have a second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Let's put your.
Aye.
All right, so the public hearing is now in session. Do we have anybody here who is in the Zoom meeting who is personally like to offer any public comments before I go into what we have in writing? I don't see anybody, so I'm going to assume no.
They're going to participate via YouTube. So the Zoom link is not necessarily public, but they would participate via YouTube. And so far, I don't even think I have anyone. It shows me if people are actually watching, and it looks like I only have one person watching on YouTube, and the chat is silent for now, but I would definitely refer to the comments that were written and submitted prior now.
Okay. I'd like to just ask Dave and Mike, have you had a chance to see the public, we've had a few people who have written us via email. Have you had a chance to review those public comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Not as much questions as as maybe thoughts about how accurate some of them may or may not be, I guess.
It doesn't have to be accurate at all. It is just simply a public comment.
Okay.
How accurate they are is really, that's up to us as a zoning board to review and determine what we want to take from it, or how far along we consider them, whether accurate or not. But if you do have any other questions about them, I've read them. Possibly we can answer something for you. But as far as them being accurate, that's not really, they don't have to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what the chair means is that sometimes the public will say things that are not necessarily accurate, but obviously this board is only going to consider things that are in fact accurate, and what's in the board's knowledge, what the board knows the law to be, and also the facts to be. If there's anything in there that you specifically think is inaccurate, now would definitely be the time for the applicant to say whatever that is, and then offer whatever basis for why you think it's not accurate.
Mike, do you have anything you wanted to say or questions? I'm going to look something up real quick.
I'm going to ask the chair, Tony, if I don't know if this is the appropriate time, Tony, while Dave looks at that information, but we had sent an email to Alana to present to the board regarding the occupancy in the house here. And we're curious whether you read that and entertained. Is now the time to ask that question?
Sure. I mean, you can ask it. I've read it. I saw it.
And I'm curious whether the neighbors have a full understanding of what we presented to you. That's what I'm curious, or is this the time to speak to that and to you about that, so that they can hear it?
No, I have not spoken to any neighbors that have about that letter. I have not.
Okay.
So I'm not sure
I
that
just
I
wanna
saw this
interject
letter.
because I'm here and I'm actually a neighbor too. I live 2 doors down at 60 South Chestnut. So I'm just putting on that hat, and I do have one of the letters that were written. So I just wanted to, in full transparency, let you know I'm here.
Thank you, Michelle. I recognize your name, Michelle. Thank you.
I actually have your letter in front of me. Michelle Zip, is that correct? That's what it says in the
That's me,
square
yes.
on the paper, if I'm saying it correctly. I see one of your concerns is the fact that that if we had 5 bedrooms allowed, you would consider that you're stating that we would be able to put 2 kids per bedroom or 2 students per bedroom with a total occupancy of 10. And truthfully, I don't believe that that's true in the configuration it is with the square footages that are existing or allowed, that we'd be able to put 10. However, at the moment, we're allowed to have an occupancy of up to 5 kids in the house without altering anything or going to the zoning board without doing anything, because the bedrooms are large enough for five students. We've asked in writing to get a variance that would allow us to have 5 separate bedrooms and limit the occupancy. We've offered to agree to limit the occupancy of the house to 5 individuals, no more, for the lifespan of the time that the house is in existence.
But that's not in the code, so
Well,
you
hold
can't
on,
like
Michelle,
rewrite the
Michelle.
code.
Hold on. So
Michelle, hold on.
If that's not
Hold on,
allowed,
hold on. I just want to make something clear. Michelle, as a public hearing, you would just simply present, it's not a discussion back and
Yes,
forth.
but there is a discussion in that they're answering my letter, which is not typical in a public
That's
hearing
not-
either.
That's not a discussion. I think that goes through the board.
okay.
Correct,
I was
but
addressing
there
that.
is discussion
Ashley, just out
happening.
of curiosity, hold on. Ashley, just out of curiosity, there is a procedural, it's kind of unique because it's on a Zoom call now. Whereas
Yeah,
in a
of course,
live
it's a-
session, Michelle would stand up behind a podium, say her comments, and then sit down. And then they would be addressed through the board. Am I correct?
Yes, so it's different in the sense because we are on the Zoom, but it does typically, you have the podium up there where the public members of the public come and they could say their comments, and then the board, just listens to everything. And then, the applicant has an opportunity to respond. If something that one of the members of the public says then sparks a question the board wants to ask the applicant, sometimes the process gets more informal in the sense that there's some back and forth there, but the back and forth should always be between the board and the applicant. That way, but that doesn't mean, if a public member of the public makes a comment, then the applicant responds and the person says, well, wait, what about this? I mean, they could, it's in your discretion, of course, but if there's got to be some end, it can't be a consistent back and forth, but I think it almost makes good sense, at least because of this format of the meeting, to have the applicant perhaps respond to the written letters, and then you could open it back up to the public, see if there's anything
That's
else.
exactly the way I'd like to do that. Okay, go ahead, Sean. You have a question?
Can you hear? Okay, good. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Maybe we should read all the letters, have Michelle comment publicly, and then the building owner can then comment on that, and we can make this happen really quickly.
No, we're not going to read the letters. We have a couple of long ones here, and it's not, Michelle's not the one who comments on them. What we'll do is, Michelle, if you'd like to take it as a podium and say anything that you'd like to say, either from your letter or just say it live, that's fine. And then any comments that Mike or Dave would have will be addressed through the board.
I don't have any further comments besides what's in the letter.
All righty. Thank you. I'm in a meeting. Go ahead. All right.
Maybe for the record, if we could just, maybe Alana could just go through and just identify for the record all of the written comments that were received.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Let me just bring them up real quick. So we obviously got a written comment from Michelle Zip. We got one from Neil Batez and Kara Belinsky, and one from Misha Harnick, and one from Rich Steffens. And then I have a Taylor Davis on the chat, but I think he's probably writing up a comment. So once that's up there, I'll share it with you. Tony, you're muted. Or maybe he's supposed to be muted.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry about that. I have a dog run. Okay. We're good. This is the pratfalls being in a Zoom meeting. What was that last question? I apologize.
I just shared the list of the names of
Okay.
people who have submitted comments prior, and then just that there's someone on the YouTube chat, Taylor, who's probably writing up a comment right now, and I'll share that once it's submitted.
Okay, we'll keep that open then. It's, what we'll do first is we will, Alana, if you interrupt with a public comment, that's fine. I'm gonna let the board, Noah, Sean, and Michael, to go ahead and ask as we go forward here, before we go through any lists or any action items as far as criteria, to have any other questions to the applicants. Sean, why don't you start?
I don't have any additional questions.
Okay. Noah, do you have any additional questions?
I do not.
Okay. Michael?
My question is just for you and Ashley. I wasn't at the previous meeting. Am I allowed to vote at this meeting?
Yes, you're allowed to vote if you feel that you have been properly versed and have read everything that's available to you and you feel that you're educated enough to vote. Ashley, am I wrong by assuming?
Exactly right. So as if you, you're here for the public hearing, which that's definitely, the important part of the process. So you're here for that, which is great. And then if you read the minutes or watched the video, you were familiar with what happened at the first meeting. And also, of course, you read the materials, so you looked at the application and all of that and the public comments, then there would be no reason why you couldn't.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, just real quick, has everything that we requested from the applicants, has that been delivered to the building department?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. It's kind of unique now because we still have this public hearing open.
Ashley can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you can just not make a motion to close it and could continue, talk about the application while I'm waiting for any further comments to come in and then close it after the fact if you want.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps since it is this format where usually you have people, in the room so you could, see them and, someone might want to comment. So I would definitely say to give it some time, but perhaps, if the applicant had anything to say in response to those public comments, now would be a good time to do that. And that might spark additional questions from the board.
Okay, why don't we start with that then? So Dave and Mike and Karen, if you'd like to have any comments before we go through any criteria and eventually close out the public hearing, this would be a good time to go ahead and make them.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. If this is a chance to make a closing statement, so to speak, or a statement before any other actions are taken by the board, I just would like the board just to be to hear us again on what exists and what we'd like to do. We have an existing 3-bedroom house with a maximum occupancy according to the size of the rooms of 5 occupants. We have no interest in having any more than 5 occupants. In the letter that we wrote to you, we indicated that that's a good business model for us. We're not looking to overcrowd the neighborhood. We understand, I believe, what the major concern is from the letters that came from from the neighbors, in addition to what your concerns were about overcrowding. So we're not looking at any more occupancy than we're permitted to have right now. Dave and I went into it a little bit more, and we're aware and we're certain that based on the lot size and the parking that's necessary, that we could go before the planning board and get approved for a four-bedroom house. In addition to that, if we did some very minor work on the inside and got a permit for removal of a wall, we could create 4 bedrooms that could each occupy 2 students. Again, we're not interested in doing that, but it would equal 8 students that we can have. We have no interest in that. None. All we want to do is have the 5 bedrooms approved and guarantee if there's a tool that you have, and I'm not aware of that, you'll have to let me know as a board, if there's something that could be signed into law in perpetuity, that we'd never have more than 5 kids or 5 students, that's who we rent to, no mystery here, 5 occupants in a house, that would survive our ownership. We're willing to sign off on that. And we really don't think that there'll be anything different to neighbor than would already exist. So that's what I'd like the board to consider. If that's the major concern about the impact on the neighborhood, then I just like the board to consider that. And I thank you for your time.
Okay.
Tyler submitted his comment in full, I believe.
You can go ahead and read it if you like, Alana. That's fine.
Okay. So he said, here's my comment. The zone restrictions clearly states that for this zone, there is a restriction of 3 bedrooms.
Actually,
There is
Alana,
a clear impact on surrounding character and neighborhood. Yes.
Alana, real quick.
Yes.
Why don't you say, normally if the person was there, they would introduce themselves, first and last name, and if they were, where they live. Am I correct? Am I allowed by saying that, Ashley? Normally we have them introduce themselves. Say that I'm a resident of this or I'm a resident of that.
Yeah, this is Taylor Davis. Oh, I don't know. He didn't give his address. So he should be watching. So he should.
He's a village resident though, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've talked to him before.
All right.
So he said, where was I? There's a clear impact on surrounding character and neighborhood. Neighbors.
Alana, I'm sorry. Can you just start? It was a little muffled in the beginning. If you could start. I'm sorry. And if everyone else could mute, if anyone's not muted, just to avoid any.
Okay, we good? Okay. The zone restrictions clearly state that for this zone, there is a restriction of 3 bedrooms. There is a clear impact on surrounding character and neighborhood. Neighbors, I think he did a typo, across the street and behind the property will be affected by adding more apartment-like housing, not only reducing future resale values, but also in public safety, noise, and lighting. Please do not change our zone laws for this clear absentee landlord to cram more residents in a 3-bedroom house. And then he said, I live directly behind the property at 55 and 51 Elting Avenue. And that seems to be it.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Alana. Without any other further comments, Ashley, it's proper that if we go through these 5 criteria to leave the public hearing open, or is this enough time? And I think we can close the public
Yeah,
hearing.
so typically that's what you do, but I don't know if first you want to give, turn the floor over to the applicant, give them a chance to respond to anything.
Well, they have. I'll give them.
Or if you have any questions
Letter
based
here.
on that. I could tell you just that I think the comment said that it only allows 3 bedrooms, but that's not correct. So this
No, that's not.
the property allows up to 4 bedrooms. So the variance is to add a 5th bedroom. So right now they only have 3 bedrooms, but they're able to have 4 under the code without a variance.
Taylor just had a little follow-up comment. He said, we have young kids, as do our next door neighbors, and we already put up with 66 Chestnut partying.
Okay. Dave, Mike, and Karen, do you have a comment that you'd like to make on that statement?
My comment is about that statement is we're actually all, we're not going to change the density that we're allowed to. Nothing changes in the neighborhood whatsoever, other than what's in writing. And in fact, as Alana just said, we could have up to 4 bedrooms in there. And with the math I've done, I could easily do 4 bedrooms with two students each. That would allow for 8 without any problem to me whatsoever. I don't understand the neighborhood impact. I believe I'm impacting the neighborhood in a good way. If I was to sell this on, somebody else could put 8 kids in there in a heartbeat. I don't understand how we're negatively impacting the neighborhood. We have a reputation of running good properties. We don't have any problems, for the most part, that I know of with any neighbor. We come in, we buy depressed houses, we renovate them, and we increase the property values on every street that I've ever worked on in New Paltz. I've owned a construction company for 40 years. We come in, we build a good product, we manage them, and we run them well. And we don't try and overpopulate them to a point where it depresses the value of your neighborhood. I don't think they understand what we're trying to do. I think the people that are writing in these letters and voting don't understand what really is going on or what could go on and what we have the right to do. We're offering to keep it at the 5 students that we are allowed already without doing anything. We have an occupancy of 5. We could go for more and not go before the zoning board. Just go for the planning board, get the approval, and put 8 kids in there without even talking to you people. We're trying to do all the right stuff and run a good product. I just wish everybody understood what was going on that's voting.
Thank
All
you.
right, Tony, Tony, you were looking for any comment on what was just read? Any comment on what was read prior to Dave's response? Was that what you were looking for?
If you'd like to offer something.
Yeah, I would, because look, we're also sensitive to how kids behave. We're careful with how we choose our kids, and I'm going to ask Karen. Can you hear me, Karen?
Yes, I can.
All right, Karen's got her cell phone 24/7 for any kids that call. And if there's any problems, Karen, have you ever got a call from police about any parties at the house there?
No, I have not.
Any? None. I mean, so to that point that there's been parties, if there's parties that are big, we're aware that police are called. It hasn't happened there.
Or it was
So
prior owners. I can't
It may have,
what
but
other people did.
I just want to be clear with the record. It hasn't happened there, Tony.
Yeah, we've only
And
owned the
boards.
property less than a year.
Yeah, so it hasn't happened. I just wanted to be clear on that. And I'm complete with that. Thank you.
May I say something? We appeal to students who are.
Speak up, Karen.
I said we appeal, our goal is to appeal to students who are looking for a nice place to live within their own space. And we are concerned about, them taking care of our houses. So we don't want to jam people in. We're not looking for the type of people that are going to have, people sleeping all over the place. We have a lease, which we did present to you, which is pretty strict. And there are things in place where if they break, the house rules and whatnot. I have a pretty good rapport with most of my tenants, or I should say all of my tenants, this year especially, and an open communication. So, I respect, the neighborhood, and we do talk to our tenants prior to signing the lease about what we do expect, and and we try and hold them to that.
And it's also our belief, in my opinion, from being the fact that I'm in construction for a living, I believe we've increased the property value. That was a college rental house before we bought it. It's in much better shape and better run now than it ever was. I don't see that as changing. So I just disagree with the comments that were stated of what we're capable of doing and what, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not like, we take something and carve up like the living room or dining room and make it into other things. As a matter of fact, I think we shortened a TV room and added a laundry room.
It's on the plans.
Yeah. So it's still a nice house. It's not, it's not like a I don't know what you call it, but
Okay. Thank you, guys.
It's not like some of the other rentals, Karen, that we're aware of in New Paltz. I think that's what you're trying to say. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing further,
I'm just getting 2 requests that you guys potentially keep the public hearing open or to allow for greater comments, but that's obviously up to you guys.
Yeah, Ashley, it's kind of new here, but normally when we have a public hearing, the people show up at the meeting and they have a chance, they're there when the meeting starts. And we let them speak and then we close it out. We don't keep it running open. What is the request specifically, Alana?
It's just to keep it open because it gives people more time to speak. I mean, I had a situation with a planning board application while we've been doing Zoom where there were a lot of neighbors who were concerned, and in order to kind of make sure people were feeling heard without crowding out the Zoom and making it more confusing, I appointed a neighborhood liaison who was able to attend and speak on behalf of neighbors, which if people are extremely concerned, that's something we can do here, as long as, we would satisfy people and make them feel like they're actually being heard and considered that way. That's an option, but again, you don't have to do that. That's just something that I've done in the past.
No, they should be, if we have a public hearing that's open, they should be here or prepared to have these comments.
So that's true, but sometimes you guys are allowed to keep the public hearing open if there's enough concern from the neighborhood and they feel like there's
All right.
more to be said or done.
The point of the public hearing, right, is to give the public an opportunity to be heard. So they need to have a reasonable opportunity to be heard. I mean, the meeting, it was properly noticed as far as I'm aware. So it's not, sometimes if there was, an issue with notice, that would definitely be a reason to keep it open. If there's some reason, why there's someone that wants to comment but is unable to, if there's something specific like that I'm not aware of. But as far as, if they want to, if they're just speaking about keep it open for a little longer right now so that they could write something, that I don't see.
All right, that's fine. We'll keep it open.
If they're asking for another day, then unless there's some need that the board, unless there's some need why you don't have everything before you today, then it would be appropriate to close.
We'll keep it open. And what we'll do is we'll keep it open. And Karen, Dave, and Mike, what we're going to proceed on now is whenever we review a variance, we have a set that's provided by the state. There's a criteria. It's a set of guidelines that we look at. And there's 5 guidelines that we look at. And I'm gonna go through them one at a time. I'll state them all right now for you so you know what they are. And then we go through them as a board and we look at how those criteria, if they're met, if they're not met, if they're severely impacted, if there's a little bit of impact to it, that's negligible impact, things like that. And then that's when we do go through that, some of these, just to let you know, some of these criteria you do impact no matter what. We as a board, it's our job to determine how severe that impact is and whether or not that's going to help us determine whether we grant a variance or we deny a variance. And there's 5 we look at, and just in a nutshell.
Hey, Tony.
Go ahead, Noah.
I wonder if it could be now or later, but I'd like to ask a clarifying question, if I could, of the people who are here.
Absolutely.
Of Mike. Is it possible for you to tell us quantitatively what the benefit is to you if you were to get this variance?
So you were asking Mike and I?
Yep.
The benefit to us is not financially. If a financial benefit, it would be to put 8 kids in there. The benefit for us is we can market it better to get kids that can live there more comfortably. And instead of getting 8 kids in there that are sharing rooms and you're charging them less money because they're sharing a room, you can get 5 individuals in there and charge them a decent rate, have them live comfortably, and you can get kids that are going to take better care of the house. Financially, I think it's not as good a business plan to do this. It's just our business plan. We're not out for every single dime we could get If we were, we wouldn't be talking to you at the moment. It's just our business plan to give a really good product and to make it easily managed and have happy kids in there in a happy neighborhood. We already have in place density for 5 kids. It just makes it easier to manage. We are not asking to put one more kid in there than we already have the right to do. That's my answer to your question.
Okay, so what I heard you say is that you can better market the existing property in the existing way that you're using it. Is that
And better benefit the neighborhood. Yes is the answer to your question. We can make the same money we're making and less impact the neighborhood with doing the variance the way we're asking. We impact the neighbors less to make the same amount of money. It's a good deal for everyone.
I don't really understand the argument for impacting the neighbors less, because neighbors don't care if 2 kids are sharing a room or not, I don't think.
No, but we'd have 8 kids in there that are, if they're sharing a room, you have to charge them less. So
Sure.
to keep the profit margin the same, we would have to have more kids in there that are sharing a room, charge them a little less money. It impacts the neighborhood more. To generate the same cash flow, we would be able to, and we could put more kids in there. That doesn't impact the neighborhood in a good way.
If you were to not get this variance, will you have 8 kids there instead of 5?
If we didn't get the variance,
Right.
would we?
Dave, I
haven't
can,
pursued
Dave,
that much.
I can speak to that, Dave. And the answer is we don't want 5 kids in there. But if we don't get the variance, I'm sorry, what was your name?
We do want 5 kids in there.
Yeah, we do. What was your name again?
I'm Noah Simons.
So Noah, here, what the truth is that if we don't get the variance as we're proposing it, what we're going to do is, we know we're going to go and get our 4th bedroom. And you know what? Chances are we'll still only go with 5 kids because that's our business plan. I want you to get that we'll probably still only go with 5. But here's what happens is that if Dave and I decide to retire in 10 years, the next guy in, based on what's there, can put 8 kids in that house. It's not our plan to do so. Versteh? So what we're really offering is to guarantee a 5-kid occupancy there from now until kingdom come, whether Dave and I own the place or not. I don't know. I just want to be certain that.
I hear what you're saying, Mike. I think I do understand from Ashley that that's not something that we can codify in this zoning variance exercise that we're going.
Correct. It can't, but we've done our research because we own the
By that
place.
same logic, if we allow you 5 bedrooms, what's to stop the next landlord from putting 10 kids in there?
You know what? Because what we're asking for is we're asking this variance to be granted with whatever caveat you can put in there that only allows 5. And look, there's nothing to stop any landlords in New Paltz, as we know is done, from crowding kids in. That's not what we've done. It's not what we've done. But it's as good as any other law that's laid out or guidelines that are laid out for any other landlord in New Paltz. And we're hopeful, I don't know if you're aware of this, that we have a good reputation in town. We do things the right way. I hope I've answered you in a satisfactory way.
Yeah, it's what I heard you say is that there is no material change to the number of people who will be in the house, whether you get the variance or not. Is that accurate?
That's our intention.
Okay.
Because it's not our model. We're just looking to make them more comfortable.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. And I had a question of you, Tony. You said that these were guidelines for the board.
If
So,
I could interrupt.
I just want to ask if
Actually, guidelines, it's not guidelines, it's a balancing test. So I think what Tony was referring to was that these are the criteria. So guidelines to me implies that it's something non-mandatory, maybe just connotation, but these are mandatory. This is the test that the board has to apply. So these are things they have to consider. And then there's an overall balancing test, and it's up to the board to weigh these different factors and consider whether the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the neighborhood. So there's this overall balancing test, and then these 5 different factors that are considered with that.
Yeah, thank you.
just one comment on that while we're talking about that balancing test. Again, that's in state law. And I know one of the written comments from, I believe it was Rich Steffens, had brought up some village code provisions that are a little different from this state balancing test. So despite what that says in village code, this board's bound by the state law balancing test. It's uniformly required that all zoning boards in New York apply this same test, and other municipalities have held different standards. And when that gets challenged in court, the courts consistently always say, no, you got to go by this state law test. So notwithstanding what's in the code, this is the state law balancing test is what this board's bound by. It's what they always apply, and it's what they're going to continue to apply on this application. Before though, getting to that point, the board, I think you really would need to close the public hearing, because you need to be making that deliberation based on everything that's going to be,
Agreed.
before you. So I don't know, Alana, is there anyone on the YouTube, any other comments or any reason perhaps why, they're asking the board to entertain keeping the meeting open?
Terrence Ward sent me an email. That's essentially kind of along the same lines of what everyone else has been saying. I don't know if you need me to read it word for word. I can certainly forward the email now to members or after. It's up to you guys.
So it needs to be, but for the board.
Yes.
You want to read it in?
Yep, please do read it.
You want me to read the whole letter? Okay.
Yes, please.
Hold on. He said, based on 10 years of actively watching meetings of the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals, I find that the applicants herein are using typical tactics such as the veiled threat that without this variance, they will in fact secure approval for something that is even more out of character for the neighborhood. I am willing to let them take their chances before the Planning Board. This request for relief is wildly inappropriate for the size of the lot. I know because my own property is across the street on a similarly sized lot and can only barely accommodate 3 bedrooms because the occupants have just 2 cars. This is nothing but an attempt to maximize revenue. If the applicant can rent to 5 individuals in 3 bedrooms, then they do not need to add 2 more bedrooms to rent to the same 5 individuals. Please do not approve this request for a variance. The chair should be advised that there is no legal obligation to provide name and address during a public hearing. If that information is requested, everyone should be advised of this fact. Thank you for your service. And I think he said that because someone in the YouTube chat had asked where the property owners live. And then Taylor had sent a couple more comments just based on what you guys have been talking about, that he had not been aware of the proposed change, and also said, therefore, there are others that would like to address. With 5 bedrooms, it's completely speculative as to whether they would put 5 or 8 in there. I find it hard to believe that anyone will hold them to 5 versus 8. And wouldn't 5 bedrooms open up the opportunity for 10 kids? And that's it. That's what I got. So.
Yes, thank you. And I just wanted to ask Ashley one more question. Thank you for being clear, Ashley, on what the criteria and what you're bound to. What I'm curious about is the board still has an opportunity to do what's called balancing to see what's best. Am I so even though you have this criteria, the board takes into consider all those things, and then they balance it, and that's up to their discretion to do the balancing?
So it's an overall balancing test, and in performing that balancing test, those 5 criteria, that's what the board needs to consider in that balancing test. So it's an overall balancing test that must consider those 5 criteria.
And just to be clear, it relies on the board's decision on how they see that, correct?
Well, it's the board taking into consideration everything, that's been submitted, the board's personal knowledge of the property, things like that, the public comments, any evidence, anything that's in the record before the board, they're able to consider that guides them in making their decision. But it's ultimately, of course, up to the board.
Got it. Thank you. So Dave and Karen, I'm complete. You guys add anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
I'm getting somewhat, Terrence is also saying he was not given notice, but I will say that If your property is within 200 feet of 66 South Chestnut, then your name would have been on a spreadsheet that I would have given to the applicants, and then they would have mailed them out, and then they gave me a signed affidavit to the fact that they were mailed and the sign was posted. I do have pictures of the sign posted on the property. So, and it was also on the website. So if people still didn't see it after that, I don't really know why that would be the case. And it was
do you
also
have
posted in the
the,
Daily Freeman too.
Do you have the mailing list? Just that way, if someone's on there that was on the list and they're saying they didn't get notice, just we
Yeah,
can.
let me see. And I get that from the Ulster County Parcel Viewer.
Well, his comments were taken, so that's fine. He made it. Do we have any other further public comments or people who are wanting to speak, Alana?
I had Misha. I think Misha is having a hard time getting on, so she's been emailing me comments, but they're along kind of the same lines of what her initial email had been.
Does she have something official that she wants to say? I mean, it's,
Like I said, nothing really. She's still along, seems to be following the same lines as her initial comment.
So the board does need to, have all the public comments before them, and whether it makes sense to do that, to read them out, or to perhaps have you could adjourn if you are going to close the hearing, you could adjourn deliberations until next time. That way you could get all the comments, including everything that was emailed to Alana tonight, and you have enough time to, digest that for the next time. If the board thinks there is a reason to, keep the public hearing open, or perhaps set a time, say you'll accept public comments for another week or so, if someone had, because of those comments on YouTube, that's certainly, within your discretion to do that too. You could close the public hearing, but you could say that you'll accept written public comments, just to make sure that everyone was heard. And yeah, I think that's certainly within your discretion.
decisions. We're going to give it another. It is 7:43 right now. What we'll do is we'll give it another few minutes. We will handle, I like to think it's a good idea, actually, maybe we can handle the administrative business outside of this and come back to this variance, and then we'll see if we've piled up any more public comments. If we have, then what I would most likely do is postpone a vote and allow people to keep contributing those comments. So why don't we give it, I'm going to,
Neil has a question. I don't know if you guys talked about this yet. He said, I thought in the R2, which was limited to 3 bedrooms, the board said they were allowed 4. Can you explain?
repeat that. You broke up a little bit on my end, Alana.
Neil is asking, he said, I thought this was an R2, which is limited to 3 bedrooms. The board said they were allowed 4. Can you explain?
Again, this is a public hearing, so the comments are made. We're not supposed to ask questions, really, to the applicants, to the people who are giving the hearing. Am I correct by that, Ashley? It's just for them to make a statement.
So it's typically, they make their comment, but if there's some kind of confusion where something like that, I mean, I could easily clear that up for them. That way they, have a full picture of what's being requested here. So in the R2, the minimum lot size under section 212-13 sub B4A, it requires a minimum lot size of 7,260 square feet per dwelling unit containing a maximum of 3 bedrooms, and then plus 2,420 square feet for each additional bedroom per dwelling. So you have to have at least 7,260 for a 3-bedroom house, and then for each additional bedroom, you require another 2,420 square feet. So here, the lot size is approximately 11,761 square feet. And in order to have a 5-bedroom house, it requires a lot size of 12,100 square feet. So that's what was meant where the lot's big enough for 4 bedrooms, but not for 5. So that's why they're before the board.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to give the public hearing people, this is a very unique situation based on this. We're doing this through Zoom, and people are trying to give people an opportunity to get in, know how Zoom works or who's not getting in. So why don't we just take a few minutes, if you don't mind, Karen, David, and Mike. We're going to proceed to some administrative business and see if we get any more public comments between now and then. If we do not, I will close the public hearing at that time, and then we will go through our criteria. Is that okay?
Okay, so what should we do?
Before closing the public hearing, though, you're going to have all of the public comments, like anything that was emailed in or,
Yeah.
submitted tonight. So that might take a little bit to get those
That's
all.
fine. We'll do that. All right. So real quickly, our administrative business, we have approval of the November 10th minutes. So has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on them or any changes that they want to make?
No.
All right. Can I get a motion, please, to have these minutes approved?
I make a motion to approve the November meeting minutes.
Can we get a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike, you can abstain if you'd like, if you weren't here.
Yeah, I think that was sort of our general practice. I'm going to
Okay.
abstain from that one.
All right, so those meeting minutes are approved. Village board updates. Alana, do we have any updates that we should alert the gang?
So it'll be up to Michelle if she has anything she wants to share.
Trying to think what's going on. Everything and nothing at the same time. Pertaining to ZBA and planning, really nothing of note. Obviously, we're really paying attention to COVID, and our building inspector is being very cautious with that, with his crew as well, trying to do virtual inspections when needed. Much of the same happenings.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, Alana, if you'd like to read all the public comments that we've had in that time, can you put them into the group in the record here?
Yeah, sure. So let's see, where were we? So yeah, I still got comments that people did not receive a notice in the mail, and they are on the list. That was Terrence Ward, and I think Taylor said they didn't get one in the mail. Taylor's daughter said that more college kids in the house means more lights and more noise, which means impact on our lives as neighbors. Taylor said, he's saying he would like for you to adjourn and keep public hearing open for more people to submit comments. We will happily inform our other neighbors who will also want to make comment. Again, we are an abutting neighbor to this property and did not receive a notice. It's completely acceptable and normal for this decision to be withheld until further comments can be submitted. And then Misha had sent me another email saying,
for a minute there, Alana. So
yeah,
did the applicant submit an affidavit of mailings?
yes,
Do you have that?
I do have that.
Okay, so I mean, procedurally, if for whatever reason, I mean, you know how the mail is these days, sometimes things disappear or you get them months later. I don't know, what the story is, but if the board wants to, because people are saying, they're on the list, they didn't get the notice, if you want to adjourn it, or like I said, give, another written comment period, it's up to the board. But since someone, are saying that they didn't get it, although getting actual notice is not the same as satisfying the requirement for notice, if it was in fact satisfied, that's something, perhaps you might want to consider.
Okay, Misha had said again, please make them give their phone number to the police, so when we complain, the police can let them know. So she's saying a little bit more about the parties. And then Rich Steffens just emailed me and says, does the site plan show applicants needing additional variances for parking and setbacks if area variance is granted?
Just, can I say something? The police do have our number.
Okay.
All right, let's give a little bit more time to allow, if there's any other further comments that people would like to make. I'm going to hold this open for a little while to see if we continue to get public comments, okay? So what I'm gonna do.
And I mean, although people are saying they didn't get the notice, I mean, they are here at the same time, which.
Yeah, they're here too. That's
means
exactly
they,
right.
did
So
receive
it's
notice.
it's
It wasn't.
7:51.
So there's plenty of time for them to make a comment now, I think, if they're, you're going to keep it open for a little bit.
I agree. So what we're gonna do is this, it's 7:51. If you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to step away, at 8 o'clock, we'll come back. I know this is unique. I've never done this on Zoom, and so it's a completely uncharted territory. But I like to give the public some more time, see if we continue to get comments right now, since this is a public hearing and it's going out pretty well. So Ashley, yeah, you're on mute, Michelle. Before I ask Ashley, go ahead. What's your question? You're on mute.
So we're going to keep the public comment open for the next meeting, or just for the next 10 minutes?
Let's see what happens over the next 10 minutes.
All right, I just want to say that I think that might be unfair because not everyone is on YouTube, and I think we need more time for the word to get out, for the opportunity for neighbors to be able to submit their public comments. I don't think they're all watching.
If the applicant signed an affidavits and provided the proper mailing and the proper signage on their property, alerting people that there's a public hearing, then Ashley, if they follow that procedure was followed.
So yeah, my understanding is that the public notice procedure was followed. Alana, was it published as well in the paper?
Yeah, it was posted in the Daily Freeman within the 5-day legal requirement. And then they also had sent me the picture of the signs that were posted on November 24th. So the signs, it seems as if the signs were posted on the property since the end of November.
Okay.
Mike Jaffe, we did that posting on November 20th. Those signs were posted, Ashley, Alana.
Oh, okay.
The 20th of November. So it was, 2 weeks prior to when we had to. I'm complete. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
I just don't know why we would want to rush this, and I just would recommend to perhaps leave the public comment open, something we often do with the village board.
Okay.
So it is up to the village, the zoning board, and although of course, as everyone's aware, Michelle is on the village board. She had mentioned that before, but when she's speaking as a member of the public, her comments, treated the same. So it's not, the law requires that you can't treat that differently when she's, speaking as a member of the public. But it's up to the board. I mean, if you think there's a reason why you need to keep the hearing open so that you can hear and have enough information before you to make an informed decision, then that's up to you. But it is.
My suggestion to keep it open is as a village board trustee, and it's just a suggestion. Obviously, Tony is, that's at his discretion.
All right, we're going to keep it open till 8 o'clock right now, and we'll see what we get between now and then. If you'd like to step away for a moment, feel free to do so. I'm putting it on mute. So Ashley, is this okay? I'd like to make sure that this is okay to do as far as stepping away, and giving some people some time to come back. It's not a lot of time. I just want to see if we get any more comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly, makes sense that you want to give some people some more time and just kind of take a brief pause in the meeting. Everyone could go on mute. It'll continue to record, but
if the
again,
procedure was followed and the affidavits were signed, then they
Mhm.
should be here at the start of the meeting. We'll give them some more time to get, a few more minutes, which we've not normally done before. So again, we haven't been on Zoom. So
yeah, it's a unique scenario because the way, people are able to
True.
have the public comment, but.
Okay, we'll do that then. We'll come back at 8 o'clock and see what we get.
Certainly.
Everyone walked away.
Okay. We'll wait for Ashley and Alana to come back.
Okay, so I someone asked, Robin Ward or J. Robin Ward asked where the signs were posted, and I sent them a picture that I have of the sign on the property. And she actually said she walked over there and the sign's not there anymore. I don't know if Mike can speak to that.
What I can let you know, Alana, is we posted 2 signs, only 1, 2.
Okay.
Signs.
Do you know where on the property did you post them?
Oh, right on the front line, just a few feet back from the sidewalk.
Okay.
Same pictures I sent to you
Mhm.
yesterday on the 20th.
Mm-hmm. Then after that, she asked about the procedures for the public hearing, which I can speak to. But before I do that, I have Kristen Missick saying, according to the zoning rules, this variance will 1, propose unnecessary hardships on us as neighbors, increase of traffic noise and light pollution. 2, it produces an undesirable change in the neighborhood. Yes, there are other college rentals in the area, but the majority of properties are single family. We take pride in our property and first home. This variance absolutely will have an adverse effect on environmental conditions. There is no restriction from the landlords to jam 10 students into the house. Like I said, Robin had mentioned that there are no signs there. She said, I don't know, hold on, the thing's like moving as people are commenting. I don't know when they posted it for how long, but it's not there now, and I do not recall seeing it.
How many people have commented?
Bill Murray is commenting now. He says, I think this needs another public hearing, as these are not typical times and response times seem to be a bit longer. Taylor said it is responsibility of the zoning board to not only decline this variance, but to also provide additional restrictions for future variance given the intended use. Alex Wojcik said, such a variance would be dangerous for residents of that building and would vastly reduce the quality of life of anyone so unfortunate to sign a lease there. Tenants are not cattle or chickens raised and slaughtered in horrific conditions for profit. We're human beings. Zoning laws exist for a reason. 5 bedrooms in that 3-bedroom home equals likelihood of at least 10 people present on any given Friday night, even without shared rooms. There's a lot of people to squeeze out in the case of an emergency. This is not the type of density a community supports, nor is it the type of density that supports a healthy, safe, environmentally sound community. And Robin said, I want to know what procedures the owners took to meet notification prior to signing that affidavit. And I don't think I got any more. Oh wait, I have another email from Rich Steffens. He said, again, this is for area variance. What about parking lot coverage, setback issues?
This is how this is gonna, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Because you can't just keep firing off machine gun emails after. So Richie wants to, you can't keep doing that. So what we're gonna do is this, I'm gonna keep the public hearing open. We will leave it open until the next meeting. At that time, I'm going to allow it to be read into the record, everybody who wants to make a comment on it, and then I'm going to close that public hearing. Okay? Because it can't, this is not working with Zoom. You make your statement and then you.
Tony, why don't we close public comment 4 or 5 days before the meeting starts next week? So then we don't even, it's not even like last minute. It happens, you know, the meeting's on Tuesday, Friday, the Friday before is the last day for comment. And then that'll make the meeting very smooth. We'll all have enough time. That'll give us 5 days to read all the letters that people wrote, and there won't be any of this nonsense. We can get through the public comments in 30 seconds.
That's not a bad idea. Ashley, how do you, are we on solid ground by doing something like that?
You mean saying like giving a deadline for when people can submit prior to the next meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I usually put on the notice, I let people submit up until noon the day of, but if we want to,
Yeah,
if you think that's enough time.
Friday the week before.
Okay.
That'll give us the weekend and 2 days to read it. That's 3 extra weeks. That's plenty of time. I don't see why we need more than that.
So as long as this, the proper notice was given of this meeting, if you wanted to close the, I was going to say oral comments, but it's really not because they're pretty much typed on YouTube. But if you want to, close the live portion of the comments during the hearing and just keep the written comments, as long as there was
Hasn't been read,
no
right?
issue with the
Stuff in here
notice,
hasn't been
then
read.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we can do the thing that I suggested earlier, which was have a neighbor come and speak on behalf of all the other neighbors.
We're gonna, if it's okay, we're gonna do Sean's idea, which we'll have it closed the Friday before the meeting. I need to see pictures again of the signs being up, make sure they're up.
Like a recent picture.
Yeah, or I live right here, so
And then if though that's an
I'll
issue,
pass by it each day and make sure the sign stays up.
Well,
Tony,
just-
if that might be an issue though, then I think you might want to just adjourn to the next meeting, because if that's potentially an issue, then,
That's what we're gonna do. I'm
so
gonna,
then it wouldn't be closing it 5 days before. It would be actually at the next meeting, because,
you know what, then, it's gonna be closed. I'm gonna close it the minute the meeting starts.
well, you can't do that.
Well, after we read the general comments, I don't want, this is giving, we have people here making multiple comments on an email, which they're not supposed
No,
to
no,
be.
I understand completely. So I think, but if there's no issue, there's proof that notice was properly given. Is that correct, Alana?
Yes.
Okay, so then as long as there's no, this meeting was properly noticed, there's proof that satisfies the board that that's the case, then it would be just closing. You could do a motion to close the meeting portion of the public hearing, but accepting written comments for until whatever the date was that you had said.
The Friday before would be January 1st.
I have a question statement situation.
Just hold on for a second, sir.
No, it would be January 8th would be the Friday before the zoning board meeting, I think.
Um, Ashley, just make sure we're on solid ground to do this then. What would happen then is, so you want to close the live portion of this meeting, adjourn it right now. Keep it open for comments up until the next meeting. You're on mute, Ashley.
Yes, so that would be one option, but if there's any reason why you think that there might not have been proper notice, that would be, if you adjourn it though to the next meeting, you can't just open and then close it. You'd have to go through this, this is the process, but.
Okay. Alana, we're on solid ground that this applicant has an affidavit and has made proper notifications.
I have a signed and notarized affidavit that says they did mail and post the signs, and they mailed it to the list of the list of neighbors that I sent. I have proof from the Daily Freeman that it was published in the Daily Freeman,
Okay.
and it was and the notice was posted on the website. I mean, I guess it's perfectly, people can falsify affidavits, but that's generally, that's what we do when we do public hearings, and
That'd be silly to do.
satisfies.
Enough people have noticed it. Okay, we're not, if they follow that rule, I'm going to heed somewhat to Ashley's advice that they follow these proper procedures here. And we have no further comments.
There was notice. I mean, people are, obviously attending. People had noticed they're attending. I
Yeah.
think that leaving the, accepting written comments is give until the 8th would give, anyone that hadn't had an opportunity to say something today more than enough time to do so.
Okay. Do we have any further comment? Do we have any more public comments, Alana?
Someone's asking about why it wasn't published in the New Paltz Times, and I can say that it was not published in the New Paltz Times because the New Paltz Times screwed up. And they emailed me the day that it was supposed to go in the paper after I'd sent it, and they said, oh, our publisher screwed up. So I immediately called the Daily Freeman and had to put it in the Daily Freeman, and the Daily Freeman can publish day of, whereas the New Paltz Times only publishes once a week. So it was still within the 5 days, and it was in a paper of record that the village uses to notify public hearings.
So that is an official newspaper of the village, and that's of general circulation in the village?
I mean, that's the one that I've been told to use if the New Paltz Times doesn't work out. So that's what I used.
Okay. All right. Sean, Noah, Mike, do you need anything further in the way of public comments to help you to a more informed decision?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Based on that and my own personal feelings on this and beliefs, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion to close the public hearing.
I need a move. I'm sorry. Someone,
I'll make a move to close the public hearing.
can I get a second? All in favor? Raise your hand so we can see.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is
You could
official.
speak for the record too, just
Yeah,
to,
who seconded that?
Sean,
Sean? And then,
and Alana, if you want to do a roll call.
yeah, sure. So Noah,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Tony?
aye.
Okay.
Okay. What this does now is going to bring us to what we do until the applicants have an understanding is we go through a criteria as outlined by New York State to what we use to help us decide whether or not we grant or we do not grant a variance. And there's 5 factors.
If I could just interrupt quickly, I just want to make sure that Alana's read all the comments. The board has all the comments. I know some were emailed. I know it's a lot of back and forth, but I just
Yeah,
want to make sure that the board has everything that was submitted because now the public hearing's been closed. So.
Yeah, the last email I got was at 8:03. It was from Rich Steffens, and I shared that one. He was still asking about parking lot coverage setback issues that would be required, if there were any variances for those. And then the chat is still moving pretty aggressively regarding just not being notified that the sign is not there. Someone asked about the New Paltz Times. I clarified that. Taylor is, so you're going to ignore all these neighbor concerns because we didn't get notice collectively. It's paused right now, but I'm assuming that the comments will continue as the meeting goes on. I don't know if I should share those as they continue on, but that seems to be it for the time being.
All right, well, no, if there's anything that was prior to me closing, again, it's a unique situation because there's people not here who are present. If they're in front of a computer and you type a comment and then they can type another comment. So it's very difficult to make a hard stop.
Yeah.
To a comment to the public hearing, but we've done that. I think the board feels confident that we've taken the information that we require.
Okay, because they said we feel that there hasn't been any acknowledgement of our concerns, but I imagine you guys will discuss those concerns in the application review portion to a certain degree.
Again, we don't answer a public comment is they make a public comment. It's not to be addressed to the board. We don't answer. We're not supposed to engage in a discussion with them.
Yeah, so it's exactly where it's a comment that the board then considers. So Alana, I'm sure, the board, when they're having their deliberations, they're going to be considering everything, including all the public comments.
So with that said, I want to just go on to let the applicants know what the 5 criteria are that we utilize to help us when we determine whether or not to grant or not grant a variance. The first one is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties would be created by granting of the requested area variance. That's the first. Second one is whether the benefit sought by the applicant could be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. The third one is whether the requested area variance is substantial. The fourth is whether the requested area variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And the fifth is whether those difficulties professed by the applicant were self-created. And those are the 5 that we're going to discuss and walk through right now. So with that said, I want to start with whether the benefit sought by the applicant could be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than requesting an area variance. And I'll open it up to Mike, Noah, and Sean. If any of you, we'll go through it. Basically what I like to do is this. Sean, do you have any comments on that?
No, I mean, I think we've heard all the plans from the person who owns the property of what he's going to do, wherever this goes. So
No, I mean, Sean, as far as on this criteria, whether the benefits sought by the applicant could be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
The applicant's already given us his options, so yeah, I mean, he's told us what he can do and what he can't do, so I think, I mean, he's told us that over and over again. So yeah, we've heard things that he said he could do.
Noah, do you have a comment on that?
I do not have a particular comment on this. No, I understand what the applicant is asking for and what the applicant can do in lieu of getting this variance.
Michael, do you have a comment on this?
Yes, I think it is abundantly clear what the applicant can do in avoiding this variance, which they have outlined.
You could just specify too, I guess, as to what their other alternatives are.
Oh, sorry, Tony, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Michael, if you're finished, if you're not finished.
They can put either, well, they can choose to only rent to 4 people, or they can have somebody room together, as opposed to having everybody in their own bedroom, which both applicants made clear that might be a possibility.
My feeling on that second point, whether the benefits sought by the applicant could be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. The applicant came with the initial statement outlining that it was a concern over COVID and that we wanted students to each have his own bedroom. COVID, right now, the applicants have also alerted us that they have 4 people in the house right now. So theoretically, by that logic, COVID, if you've rented it out June through June, I would like to think that COVID is really not going to be a factor by June. So I don't consider the COVID logic really to be valid in this instance. All right, I feel that you can wait till June, and if you want to if you want to have 5 kids sign that lease, you absolutely could. Between now and then, if you're still uncomfortable about that, the kids can wear masks in the house or practice their own social distancing. There are ways to even split that bedroom if you're concerned about putting a 5th kid into that bedroom. So I do think that there are some other alternatives. Of course, and to Mike's point is that you could theoretically go against your business model and rent to 4 students, or you could still rent to 5. It's your model. So as far as when we look at a variance, we do look at what those other alternatives could be. I'm not saying that you have to use those alternatives or implement them in any way, but that's an example. Any other questions on that point?
And just touching on what you had said, Tony, of course, the variance runs with the land. So it's something in the sense, I know you were talking about COVID, which is related to the pandemic that's ongoing right now, but any variance, of course, always runs with the property.
Correct. That's perpetuity, right? It goes with it. All right, let's go to the next point is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties would be created by granting of the requested area variance. Sean, do you have any comments that you'd like to add to that, or?
No.
None. Noah?
I think we have heard from a number of neighbors that many people believe that this would cause an undesirable change in the neighborhood. So I'm merely summarizing what I heard from the public comments that we received.
Michael?
No, I have no thoughts on this one.
For me, as an undesirable change in a neighborhood, one of the things that I would take into account is, are there any 5-bedroom homes on that street? There are not. There's only 3 and maximum 4 bedrooms. So an undesirable change doesn't always have to be physically out there. It can be something that's just a change in the neighborhood where you'd be the only 5-bedroom home on that block between that area. You have your hand up, Mike, and you're on mute. I'm going to allow you to make a quick comment.
Yeah, thanks. Just for the record, there are 2 8-bedroom houses on the block, just a few houses down. I believe they're 52 and 54, just for the record.
I will look up that if they're actually considered legal 8 bedrooms. I do not believe that is the case.
They are. They were built that way. They are. Because you'll find out. I just wanted to make the record clear.
Submitted something with your materials on that, and the property classification code with the Ulster County is classifying them as an inn. I didn't understand that. It's not classifying them as a single family home, those 8-bedroom properties you had referred to. They're actually being classified as, yeah, an inn, I believe is the property code.
And their lot size is the same as ours.
Thank you.
As far as we were talking about the character, and I know the board had talked about throughout the amount of potential residents, I guess that this, 5-bedroom versus a smaller bedroom house, how that might impact other things. If just wanted to remind you of those discussions.
Well, we'll get into that. I think that might lead to an adverse effect, which would be a fourth point if we get, as we look into this. Whether the requested variance is substantial. Sean?
Yeah. Yeah, you're turning a 3-bedroom into a 5. Yeah, that's pretty substantial.
Well, I think by substantial here, it's referring to what is the overall square footage that they're asking us to grant a variance toward.
Oh. It's, how much are they short on the property? How many square feet?
200 or 300.
339.
300 and change, that's correct.
39. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty big.
Noah, how do you feel about that?
They're 300 square feet shy of the number of square feet they would need out of 12,000 to 12,000 and change. Is that right?
Yes, so they need 12,100 for a 5-bedroom, and it's they have 11 something. So it's a difference of 339 square feet that they're short. That's what the variance
And
is.
that would be for the 5th bedroom, not the 4th.
Yes, that would be for 5th. So you don't need there's no variance that's required for 4.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
So I'm just doing the math of, 400 over 12,000 roughly in the square footage. And on that basis, I don't think that's a substantial square footage difference.
Michael?
I have no comment on this.
Okay. I also do not feel that 300 feet is a substantial difference, but it is an interesting thing. When you look at, you can look at a row of blocks. If you stack them up, you can put 10 straight up. If you put the 11th one on, it can crumble, but it's only one more block. So sometimes with substantial, you have to weigh it out very cautiously. I do feel that 300 feet is not substantial per se, but within a picture of 300 feet, is it an extra student or an extra car? Is that enough to impact the neighborhood or create an adverse effect? So that's going to lead me into my fourth point, is whether the requested area variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Sean, do you have any comments toward that?
No.
Noah? Noah, do you have any comments on that?
I do not.
Michael?
The neighborhood seems pretty universal and apparent that it will, and I would defer to their opinion on this. So yes, I do think it will have an impact.
Can I clarify one more thing? Would it be possible?
Who's that speaking?
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
So I wanted to put forth, in our paperwork that we submitted, I believe for a 5-bedroom house, you would need 5 parking spaces. And we proved that. In fact, we have room for more than 6 parking spaces. So I don't see, we're not asking to change any of that. We have it. We meet your criteria that you're looking for and above.
Actually, it's
And we
close
showed
on
you
those
that by
parking
submitting the
spaces,
papers
Mike.
you looked for.
Mike,
So
theoretically,
I wanted to question.
all right, I'm going to leave that at face value. What I would think as far as adverse conditions is, what I'm concerned about is the traffic in the neighborhood. You are pulling out onto a main street. Obviously, the more cars in that driveway, for me, does create a concern for safety. I've seen the driveway. You can put 4 cars in that. I wouldn't call it comfortably. If you're going to try to squeeze 5 in, you probably require some engineering to be involved to take care of that. Those cars are very close onto the street to be pulling out. And I personally feel that students are not the best drivers from my own living in this village as long as I have. I have a safety concern to some of that, and that is the adverse effect that I'm considering when I look into whether or not I grant this variance.
If I could just comment on that too, because I know it's been said maybe by a couple of people, but although the house is currently, being used for student housing or rented to students, that this variance, again, it runs with the land, and zoning regulates the use, not the user. So you have to look at this, that it's a request for a 5-bedroom single-family home, and it's not limited to the fact, that it's being used currently by a student.
That's correct.
So it's
I mean,
the overall impact of
that's
the
my fault.
parking, the number of spaces or the number of.
They could be a bad driver at any age. I should have said. I should not have relayed that. Although there are students in there right now. Long-term, you're right, in perpetuity, I should not have referred to it that way, Ashley. But I am concerned about safety and the amount of cars pulling in and out onto a main road, such as Chestnut. Whether the difficulties professed by the applicant were self-created. Sean, you have any comments on that?
Yeah. This could have gone to the zoning. This could have gone to the planning board and been dealt with in a regular way. So, the way that you usually build something is you go to the planning board, you ask for approval, and they say yes or no. And instead, so yeah, this is self-created. If it had been done that way, we would not have been involved in this at all. So, yeah.
Just so I could clarify, so that it's not currently being used. What approval are you talking about from the planning board? Because it's not currently.
They did construction on this. They built the bedrooms. They built the bedrooms by saying that they were something else.
Or they added 2 rooms.
They added 2 rooms,
Okay.
and if they had done it through the planning board, then this wouldn't.
It's not actually accurate. The lower room downstairs was an existing room. We actually made it smaller to add the laundry room. So we didn't add a bunch of rooms that weren't there. It was existing when I bought the house. We did take one of the garage bays and turn it into an extra room that we would now like to convert into living space. The other thing is to clarify, I believe I didn't make your zoning laws about lot size and driveway and stuff like that and parking, but I think you're also not counting the fact that it has a garage, and that's a parking space. So you park your car in your garage, it counts. It's just the way the laws are written. I just want to clarify the fact that I have done the engineering on it. There's room for more than 6 cars there. It's not disputable. It may be your opinion, but it's accurate.
Thank you, David. Noah, as far as self-created.
Tony, could you just clarify to me what the alleged difficulty is in this term?
Say that again, Noah, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, what is the alleged difficulty?
In alleged difficulty for what?
Yeah, so the question here is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, right?
That's correct.
So
Oh.
here they're seeking to have a 5-bedroom house that doesn't meet the minimum code size. So it would be self-created, and typically they're all self-created. Trying to think of an example where it wouldn't be, where perhaps
Well,
someone
that could
bought
be-
something without notice that it was, limited, or perhaps they bought it and as they were closing, the law changed and they had no idea, and something then became prohibited that they, had a good faith basis to think was permitted. So it's
They
typically.
all could be self-created to some extent, but you may have one that's a safety issue that they need to change. So there's a variance to how self-created that problem can be, or that variance that's requested can be.
It's more the clarification on what the alleged difficulty is. Are the applicants coming and saying it's difficult for me that we don't have a 5-bedroom house here and we need a 5-bedroom house? I mean, I understand the self-created piece of it.
I think I can clarify something.
Yeah.
I don't believe anything is self-created. I think we're trying to convert something we have into something to be used as a different use. We're not presenting that as a difficulty.
Well, you have a problem that's created is you're trying to put a 5th bedroom in, and you're not allowed to by the zoning board. That is a
Well, but
problem.
we didn't create a problem, I don't believe.
Well, you're here because of that problem. So if you didn't want to put a fifth bedroom in, we wouldn't have this problem. So it's self-created.
So it's, yeah, the difficulty being the need for the variance. So why can't you meet the code? So whether that is something because you don't want to add something that doesn't apply, or if, for example, yeah, there was some other reason why it wouldn't have been. I mean, they're rare, but they do come up, that sometimes it.
When you're in front of the board,
Understood.
it's always self-created. It's just how much to an extent. Is it a safe?
Almost always. There's some rare, very rare.
Yeah, I haven't seen one yet, and I've
They
been here 5
are.
years, but they do happen.
Mhm. Sometimes there's other factors that make them perhaps less self-created if, I don't know, maybe the topography is only allowing you to build in one spot. I don't know
I understand.
offhand.
So we-
It's
we-
So
self-created, I mean,
we've gone through these 5 criteria. Before, I think we're prepared to vote. Before we vote, oh,
I didn't get to weigh my part of that criteria.
I'm sorry, Michael. That's my.
That's fine.
Go
I
right.
think that this is self-created. You, neither of you actually reside with your family at this residence, and you don't, it's self-created because you don't need to rent to 5 people. You can just as well rent to 4 people or 5 people with them shared. So I do think that this is entirely self-created.
Okay. Before we go ahead and vote, do the applicants have anything else that they'd like to add?
Not me.
Okay.
Not I. Thank you, though. Thanks for the consideration. We appreciate it.
Then I'm going to have Alana, let's make a motion to have, I need to create a motion to have this voted, correct, Ashley?
Yes, it would be a motion, and then however,
Let's have a
and I would just ask that Alana does a roll call for your actual vote.
Yeah, we'll roll call it. I just want to make sure that we have this is accurately. So I'm going to make a motion to vote on applicant area variance review for ZB 20-0266 Chestnut, applicant David Schwartz, zoning district R2. I'd like to have a motion for a vote on that variance.
So it would be either a motion to approve or a motion to deny.
Motion to approve, a vote on it. Well, we're going to vote on it. All right, so approve or not approve the variance.
So you would have to say though or someone has to make a motion
No.
one way or the other.
Yeah, I just asked for that motion.
Okay.
I think Sean.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so this is what Ashley is saying. Is this a motion to approve or a motion to deny?
I say a motion to vote. We need to
No,
vote.
you don't just have a motion. Someone needs to either make a motion to approve or a motion to deny.
If he doesn't get enough votes,
Okay.
then obviously the approval is
I
not
understand.
approval. You know
So
what I'm
let's
saying?
make a motion then to approve ZB 20-0260 South Chestnut Street. Applicant David Schwartz. Let's take a motion to approve. Can I get a motion?
Aye.
Get a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor to, all right, so what we'll do now is, Alana, you would now make a roll call for a vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike,
So this is a motion to approve.
yes.
No.
Okay, Noah,
No.
Sean,
No.
Tony.
No. So that vote is, that motion is denied by a unanimous vote of 4-0. That would conclude this application.
So I would suggest that then you make a motion. So technically, a motion doesn't, a motion to approve doesn't pass, then it does result in a denial. But the way your board does things, it's always by written, formal written decision. So I would suggest that you make a motion to deny the variance, subject to a written decision that I'll prepare.
All right, so let's have a motion to deny the variance via a written, that Ashley.
A written decision
put together written. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Recognize Sean. Can I get someone?
Aye.
All in favor?
Noah, was that a second from you?
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call it, or do you want to just,
A roll call, please.
okay,
Okay,
same order, Alana.
okay, Mike,
Aye.
okay, Noah,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
Okay.
So for the applicants, and you'll have a notification of this in 30 days. This concludes that application review for that variant ZB 20-0266 South Chestnut Street.
So what I'll do is I'll prepare, and this is what we've done in the past, is I prepare a written decision, basically just summarizing what the board discussed tonight. And then at the next meeting, it would just be the board will vote just to accept that as the written memorialization of your decision.
Thank you, Ashley. If we have no further business, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
If I could, Tony, I would just like to, in these charged days are not easy for any of us. I'd just like to thank the board for just addressing this in a decent manner. There's not enough of this in our world these days. So thank you for hearing us out and for being decent with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. That's a nice thing to say.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
And
all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Okay, the December 8th meeting of the zoning board review is officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you to the applicants. And thank you to Ashley. A lot of help this meeting. And thank you, Alana. I know it's not easy with Zoom and it's a unique public hearing to have on Zoom. I'll say that. So thank you all and have a good night. And we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you.